Today I'm going to teach you how to chop up a drum sample. Welcome to lesson number 6. The assignment's going to be for today's lesson, I'm going to give you 4 samples, not 3. I'm going to give you 4 samples. One of the samples is a drum sample called Sanan Drums 75. You must use this sample. After that, I have another 3 samples that you can choose to use from. For today's example, I've already selected I'm going to use one of these samples, and that's something you need to do as well. Before you start on BandLab, what I would like you to do is listen to the 3 samples, decide which one you're going to use, but here's the important part. I do not want you to put it in yet. I do not want you to put it in yet. For example, I'm going to use nighttime keys, and the important part that you need to know is you need to remember, remember what tempo the sample is. Nighttime keys is currently 91 BPM. So I'm going to use nighttime keys 91 BPM. Okay, let's get started. This time we're going to open a voice mic channel. So a voice mic channel is basically an audio channel. These channels, very similarly, if you drag in a sample, as we know to do, this will open an audio channel. So I'm just going to use straight away an audio channel. So you're going to click voice and mic. Voice and mic will not work for any MIDI sounds. Like if you try to plug in a keyboard, nothing will happen here. Subsequently, some of you may have realized as well that if you open up, let's say, an instrument or a drum machine channel, if you drag in an audio sample here, it goes black and you play it, nothing comes out. That's because that's a MIDI channel for digital instruments. So we're going to use straight audio today. So firstly, let's have a listen to our sample, 75 BPM. Don't adjust. Let's have a listen. Excellent. Okay. So this is our sample that we're going to use. Nighttime keys, I'm going to remember that's there. Now, nighttime, we're going to be chopping up this drum sample. And actually, this is an extremely old way that music was created, especially a lot of sampled music and a lot of hip hop back in the day. What would happen is producers would take records from different genres of music like soul, jazz, funk, and they were looking for something called a break. A break is when there's only one instrument or one sound playing. So a drum break would be when there's just drums in the song. Then they would extract this sample exactly as we've got this audio file here, and then they'd chop it up to make it their own. I'm going to show you how to do that. So firstly, this is the important part now. We are going to transform this drum track, and this is our lab. We're going to use this just as our lab to chop up. There's no music that's going to be really happening from this track here. If you remember, and this is the important part, the sample that I'm using is nighttime keys, and that's 91 BPM. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change my drum sample from 75. So firstly, we have to get the drum track in time, which I've done. If I put on the metronome, you can hear that is in time. So firstly, we must get Sanan drums in 75. Now, we're going to change this now to 91. But here's the important part. We're going to press adjust. I've never asked you to press adjust. I've explained to you what it does, but I've never asked you to press adjust. Loads of people have sent me work that's been out of time because you press adjust. Usually we always press don't adjust, but we're going to adjust. Why? This is going to speed up the sample. This is going to speed up. BandLab has a very clever algorithm that's going to change the tempo of this sample from 75 BPM to 91 BPM. So we're going to press adjust. Excellent, excellent. So this is my drum sample. Now, what I'm going to do is, if you remember the 3 main parts of the drum, the 3 main parts of the drum kit are the kick, the hi-hat, and the snare. So the kick, this is our kick drum here, and you can see the massive wavelengths. These are our kick drums. And our snare is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Our snare is that that clap sound that comes in on the third beat. And our hi-hat is this beat in between. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I'm actually, not too much, so I can see the whole thing. I'm actually going to do something that we looked at a while ago, and actually going to slice up this audio file. I'm going to chop it up into little sections. So I'm going to extract the kick, this hi-hat, the snare, and I'm going to probably take this double kick as well. And this is what I'd like you to do as well. So to remind you how to slice, you will only ever slice at this playhead here. This is called the playhead. That is where it will slice the audio file. Also, you can slice by right-clicking and pressing slice. But the way I'm going to use it is by pressing the S key on my keyboard. So I'm going to go press 1, 2 on the arrows. I'm also using the arrows on my keyboard. And please use the arrows to just navigate through this audio file. So 1, 2, slice. 1, 2, slice. 1, 2, slice. 1, 2, slice. And in fact, that's everything I'm going to take. So I'm going to delete everything else. So now what I've got is a kick, a hi-hat, a snare, and then I've got this double kick here, which sounds quite interesting. So that's all we've got. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up 3 more tracks. And I'm going to label them as according. Kick drum. Hi-hat. And snare. Now, if you remember going back from when we were chopping up, a really important shortcut that you're going to have to use, otherwise you're going to be a slave to having to copy and paste, is the Alt key. If you look on your keyboard now, you should see the space bar to the left and to the right. I think it's 2 to the left or 2 to the right. You should see Alt. If you click Alt and drag, it will make a brand new duplicate of it. So I'm actually going to mute this. Remember, M is mute. I'm actually going to mute this lab track because I don't need it at all. I'm going to make my own drum beat. And remember to keep the metronome on as well. So if you remember, the formula for a very basic drum beat is kick on the 1, snare on the 3, and a hi-hat at every beat. So and we've actually here 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can actually put that into practice. A bit slower, but this is our hi-hat. So I'm going to press Alt and extract our hi-hat. This is our snare. So if you remember, hi-hat, we can place this at every beat. So I'm using a perfect grid. Perfect grid, as you can see. Everything's gridded up perfectly. Kick, hi-hat, hi-hat, hi-hat. In fact, this is going to be, as you can see, 1, 2, 3. This is where our snare is going to go. Exactly like it is in the track here. So I'm going to take my snare. Remember, I've pressed Alt. Now, let's have a listen. We've got kick, hi-hat, snare. Let's have a listen. And there we have it. In fact, I'm gonna duplicate this as well a few times just so you can hear it. What I've done is I've chopped up all the individual parts. And we have a drum beat. Now you can take this very far. You could move things around a little bit. If I move the kick drum just a little bit, one box to the left. You can hear I'm changing the rhythm. Again, I could also duplicate 2 snares at the end. And that's also going to, you can do a lot from here. Also, you could also, if you think about the snare is actually this sound here. So this is all silence. What I also could do, that snare, I could also double it up again. And we've looked at this before. And now I've got my loop. I could select everything, press Alt again, and duplicate. Remember to start at the beginning. So this is a way of chopping up a drum sample, extracting the different sounds. Remember, the kick is the low, that really low. If I just solo the kick, then I'll solo the hi-hats. Almost sounds like a bell. And then the snare is our big hit. And again, if you remember last lesson, you could pan everything. So you could have kick bit to the left, you could have hi-hat on the right, you could have snare to the right. Whoops, sorry, that's muted. Hopefully you can hear the snares just to the right a little bit. And now, of course, this was all a setup for my sample, Nighttime Keys, which I'm going to drag in. Because Nighttime Keys on BandLab is at 91 BPM, it's ready. In fact, all I have to do, as you can see, Nighttime Keys is already ready. I'm just going to, again, you can see my lab. This is where I got my originals from. That's muted. In fact, I can even delete this now because I've got loads of duplicates. Delete track. I never use that double kick, but in fact, I'm going to use that double kick right now. If we go, just to make like a little intro, solo. If we listen to this original, we've got this these two kicks. Let's have a bit of fun here. I'm going to create a very quick intro. Let me just move everything up. I've selected everything. I've moved it up a bit. So that's my first kick. And this is my double kick. Sorry, I will zoom in again so you can see what I've done. Mute that. Solo this. This was the double kick at the end. Right. Let's have a listen and hear how it sounds with the sample. Excellent, sounding nice. So this all came, if you remember, this all came from that original San-An drum loop. This San-An drums, which I want everyone to use. Get it in. If you listen, this is all from that loop. We made it sound completely different. Another way of flipping samples, making your samples sound better than the next person's samples. Turn off the metronome. So we created that drum beat from this. So your task is going to be, and I really recommend everyone really watch this, really slow down and go over this video again. Please remember the shortcuts that are going to make your life very easy. Slicing. Remember to press S. Hold Alt. I think every time you saw me create a new box, it comes from holding Alt, A-L-T, clicking and dragging. So that's it for today's lesson. Very well done. I want everyone to complete the assignment, which is going to be pick one of these samples and the drum sample. Remember to listen to all these samples first, pick it, but don't import it yet. Import it at the very end. Import it at the very end. So whatever your new tempo will be, remember, let's say, in fact, let's go 75. Don't adjust. So let's say you wanted to do Omen Flute or Samurai. They're both at 140. Okay, get Santan drums in first. Then you're going to go to 140 and adjust. You must press adjust. And also, I'm going to give you a massive tip as well. Half of that, if you can hear, that was a really double time quick sound. If you want half of 140 is 70. So actually, you could also do this. Adjust it to 70. And you'll get a lot more of a slower sound. Let's quickly put in Samurai Swing. Samurai Swing is 140 BPM. This is 70 BPM. It's going to work. It's just going to be at half the tempo. So your job is to chop up the drums, chop up the kick, hi-hat, snare, and recreate and rearrange and create a brand new drum beat.